South Africa, a land of sunshine and shadows, a place where beauty and brutality often collide. It's here in this land of contrasts that our story unfolds. This is the story of Daisy de Melker, a seemingly ordinary woman who would become South Africa's first documented serial killer. Born Daisy Louisa Hancorn Smith in 1886, her life began far from the notoriety that would come to define her. But fate, it seems, had other plans. Daisy's story is a chilling reminder that darkness can lurk beneath the most unassuming facades. Over the course of this series, we'll delve into the life and crimes of Daisy de Melker. Prepare yourself for a journey into the heart of darkness. Daisy de Melker, a name whispered in fear and fascination. She became known as the Black Widow of South Africa, a woman who used marriage as a weapon, luring unsuspecting men to their deaths. Her victims, 3 husbands and a son, met their demise under suspicious circumstances, each death shrouded in mystery, each leaving Daisy a little richer, a little freer. Her weapon of choice? Poison. Daisy, it seemed, had mastered the art of death, disguising her deadly intentions behind a mask of normalcy. The authorities started to connect the dots, and Daisy's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. What drove Daisy de Melker to commit such heinous acts? Was it greed, a lust for power, or was it something far more sinister? Despite her crimes, Daisy remained an enigma. Even those closest to her claimed to barely know her. Her life, a tangled web of secrets and lies. Join us as we unravel the truth about Daisy de Melker, delving into the dark corners of her mind. Daisy Louisa Hancorn Smith, a name lost to history, replaced by the chilling moniker Daisy de Melker. But before the darkness consumed her, she was a girl born into a world of uncertainty. The year was 1886, her birthplace, Seven Fountains, a small town nestled in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Life in those days was harsh, especially for a family struggling to make ends meet. Fragments of information paint a picture of a difficult upbringing. Some say her family life was tumultuous, marked by financial strain and internal discord. The weight of these early experiences left an indelible mark on Daisy, shaping her worldview, twisting her perception of right and wrong. As Daisy grew older, her family relocated to Bulawayo, a burgeoning city in what was then Rhodesia. Life in this new land offered both promise and peril. For Daisy, Bulawayo offered a chance to reinvent herself, to escape the shadows of her past. She enrolled at the Good Hope Seminary School in Cape Town, excelling in her studies. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The Anglo-Boer War erupted, casting a long shadow over the land. The war, with its brutality and senseless loss, left an indelible mark on her psyche. The world, she was reminded, was a battlefield. Seeking solace and purpose in the aftermath of war, Daisy enrolled at the Berea nursing home in Durban. Nursing, a noble profession, seemed to offer her a chance to heal. She proved to be a capable student, quickly mastering the intricacies of medicine. It was during this time that Daisy met Bert Fuller, a handsome young civil servant. Their courtship was brief but intense, a whirlwind of passion. But tragedy struck on what should have been the happiest day of Daisy's life. Bert, on their wedding day, succumbed to blackwater fever. Daisy was devastated, her dreams of a happy future dashed. But amidst the grief, a seed of something darker took root. The death of a loved one is a profound experience, a time for mourning and reflection. But for Daisy, Bert's death, while tragic, seemed to awaken a dormant ambition within her. 18 months after Bert's demise, Daisy met William Alfred Cowell, a plumber by trade. William, or Alf as Daisy affectionately called him, became her first husband. Their union was blessed with 5 children, a testament to their outward normalcy, but tragedy continued to follow Daisy. Only one child, Rhodes, survived infancy, the others claimed by illnesses that seemed to plague the Cowell household. Through it all, Daisy played the role of the grieving wife and mother to perfection. Little did they know, a sinister plan was already taking shape in Daisy's mind. The years that followed were a blur of domesticity and calculated cruelty. William, plagued by persistent stomach ailments, became increasingly reliant on his wife's care. Daisy, ever the attentive spouse, nursed him through each bout of illness. On January 11, 1923, William's suffering came to an end. He died as he had lived under Daisy's watchful eye. The cause of death, attributed to his long-standing stomach troubles, seemed plausible enough. Daisy, once again cloaked in widow's weeds, inherited £1,795 from her late husband's estate. The pattern was set, a pattern of marriage, illness, and timely inheritance. With each death, Daisy's confidence grew. Three years after William's demise, Daisy set her sights on a new target. Robert Sproat, another plumber, fell under her spell. They were married in a simple ceremony, Robert oblivious to the fate that awaited him. Their marriage, like the one before, followed a familiar and chilling trajectory. A year into their union, Robert experienced a sudden and violent illness. Daisy, her knowledge of poisons growing with each passing death, played the role of the frantic wife. Robert, to Daisy's dismay, recovered from the attack, but his reprieve was short-lived. On November 6, 1927, he suffered another agonizing episode. Robert died within minutes, his body contorted in pain. Daisy's reputation, despite the whispers that followed her like shadows, remained remarkably intact. She was, in the eyes of society, a woman touched by tragedy, a victim of fate's cruel hand. And so, in 1931, she embarked on her third and final marriage. Sidney Clarence de Melker, a plumber like his predecessors, became Daisy's next victim. Sidney, described as a kind and trusting soul, seemed utterly smitten with his new bride. He welcomed her son, Rhodes, into their home, unaware of the darkness that had already taken root within the young man's heart. It's unclear what drove Daisy to kill her son. Whatever the reason, Daisy, with chilling detachment, decided to eliminate the one person who posed a threat to her carefully constructed facade. Rhodes' death, unlike those of his stepfather, was swift and brutal. Arsenic, a potent poison, was Daisy's weapon of choice. She laced his food or drink, watching with cold indifference as he succumbed to its effects. Rhodes was buried in New Brixton Cemetery, laid to rest beside the graves of his father and stepfather. Daisy, her grief seemingly genuine, returned to the role of the grieving widow. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. William Sproat, Robert's brother, was determined to expose her for the monster she truly was. News of Daisy's arrest sent shockwaves through South African society. The seemingly respectable widow, the grieving mother, unmasked as a cold-blooded killer, it was almost unthinkable. Yet here she was, standing trial for the murders of her son and 2 husbands. The year was 1932. The setting, the Grand Johannesburg High Court. The trial of Daisy de Melker became a national obsession. Every twist and turn, every revelation, devoured by a public hungry for details. Newspapers published daily accounts, their front pages dominated by images of Daisy. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Spectators queued for hours, desperate to catch a glimpse of the woman who had captivated the nation. The prosecution, led by the formidable advocate Neza, faced a daunting task: They had no eyewitnesses, no smoking gun. The evidence against Daisy was largely circumstantial, a tapestry of coincidences and suspicious deaths. They presented evidence of the victim's symptoms, the agonizing convulsions, the telltale signs of poisoning. They exhumed the bodies, presenting the findings of forensic experts who testified to the presence of poison in the remains. Strychnine in the cases of her husbands, arsenic in the case of her son. The defense, led by the shrewd and tenacious Mr. J.T. Barry, countered at every turn. They argued that the victims had succumbed to natural causes. They painted Daisy as a devoted wife and mother. The courtroom became a battleground of wits, a clash between two opposing narratives. Days turned into weeks, the trial dragging on, each side presenting its case with meticulous detail. The public remained captivated, their appetite for details insatiable. And then, just when it seemed the prosecution's case might faltering, a breakthrough. A local pharmacist, Mr. Spilkin, came forward, his testimony sending shockwaves through the courtroom. He recognized Daisy from a photograph published in the newspaper. He remembered her clearly and distinctly. She had purchased arsenic from his shop just weeks before Rhodes's death. The prosecution had their link, their proof that Daisy had access to the very poison that had killed her son. The jury deliberated for 2 days, their verdict eagerly awaited by a nation on tenterhooks. Finally, they returned, their faces etched with the gravity of their decision. Guilty of the murder of Rhodes Cecil Cowell, not guilty of the murders of her 2 husbands. The courtroom erupted, a cacophony of gasps and murmurs. Daisy, her composure shattered, showed a flicker of emotion for the first time. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for a friendly face, a glimmer of hope in a sea of condemnation. But there was no reprieve. The judge, his voice somber, sentenced Daisy to death by hanging. The Black Widow, her reign of terror finally at an end, would pay the ultimate price for her crimes. The trial of Daisy de Melker, a landmark case in South African legal history, had come to a close, but the story wasn't over. Daisy's legacy, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most seemingly ordinary individuals, would continue to haunt the nation's psyche for generations to come. Despite the weight of suspicion and the damning evidence, Daisy clung to a glimmer of hope. The prosecution's case, while compelling, hinged on circumstantial evidence. The whispers, the rumors, the uncanny coincidences, they weren't enough to secure a conviction, not beyond a reasonable doubt. Her demeanor in court, a peculiar mix of confidence and detachment, suggested she believed she would outmaneuver the justice system once again. She had, after all, evaded scrutiny before. The deaths of her husbands, attributed to natural causes, had left no trace of her involvement. Even the death of Rhodes, while suspicious, lacked concrete proof. The prosecution had failed to uncover the source of the arsenic, the crucial link that would tie Daisy directly to the crime. Her confidence, it seemed, stemmed from this missing piece of the puzzle. As the trial progressed, Daisy's confidence seemed to grow. She sat in the dock, a study in composure, her gaze unwavering as witness after witness took the stand. Her lawyer, Mr. Barry, a skilled orator and a master strategist, chipped away at the prosecution's case, sowing seeds of doubt in the minds of the jury. The courtroom settled into an uneasy silence. The prosecution laid bare the chilling details of Daisy's alleged crimes. The defense painted her as a victim of circumstance. The jury listened intently to the closing arguments. The prosecution urged the jury to see Daisy as a cold-blooded killer. The defense implored the jury to resist speculation. The jury prepared to retire for deliberation. The jury's verdict, while a relief to those who believed in Daisy's guilt, did little to soothe the unease that had settled over South Africa. The Black Widow, as she had come to be known, had shattered the nation's sense of security. She had exposed the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives, the potential for evil that resided in the human heart. Daisy, despite her composure throughout the trial, was said to have been inconsolable in the face of her impending doom. The once confident facade crumbled, revealing a woman consumed by fear and regret. Her appeals for clemency, her desperate pleas for a reprieve from the hangman's noose, fell on deaf ears. On the morning of December 30th, 1932, Daisy de Melker was led to the gallows at Pretoria Central Prison. She walked with a surprising firmness, her head held high, her eyes fixed on some distant point beyond the walls of her earthly prison. The prison chaplain, his voice trembling slightly, offered words of comfort, reminding Daisy of God's mercy and forgiveness. As the hangman adjusted the noose, a hush fell over the execution chamber. The witnesses, their faces pale and drawn, shifted uncomfortably, their gazes averted from the gruesome spectacle about to unfold. Daisy, her last moments ticking away, uttered a final, barely audible prayer. Daisy de Melker's execution captivated a nation, her crimes becoming legend, her story a cautionary tale whispered around campfires and late-night gatherings. Some saw her as a monster, others as a victim of madness. Daisy de Melker left an indelible mark on the South African psyche. Even today, her name evokes fascination and revulsion. Daisy de Melker, the woman, the monster, the myth, lives on in memory.